Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
But I wonder whether you felt the need to adjust your radio. You thought perhaps you'd accidentally, as you listened to the news bulletin, tuned into either some sort of dystopian drama or some poor satirical programme. But it's true that the party of government, the governing party, the Conservatives, doctored their own Twitter feed last night to look like an independent fact-checking service.
During the debate, though, the Conservatives did something curious to one of the party's Twitter accounts. They changed it from looking like this to this, presenting themselves as something called Fact Check UK. They published a series of tweets as Fact Check UK saying Jeremy Corbyn was lying about issues like holding an independence referendum. Tell me what it says at the top there.
This is Fact Check UK from CCHQ. CCHQ, what's that?
You know what that is?
No.
Senior Conservatives deny they misled voters, pointing to the initials CCHQ on the page. In Moffat, a tourist town in a seat the Tories hold, does that survive contact with pensioner Elizabeth? On a scale of 1 to 10, how misleading do you think this is?
About 10.
Fact Check UK. Following. And what's it all about?
How about Ian, the grocer?
CCHQ.
So what's that?
Secrets thing?
That's GCHQ.
Oh, that's GC. Well, what's CCHQ?
You don't know?
No, I have no clue.
CCHQ, well, that would be Conservative Campaign Headquarters.
No, this is new. This is a bit more. Edgy.
You okay with that?
Yeah, okay. But that's the way it's going to be this election. I think fact checking is essential this time. But hasn't been in previous elections, but it will be now.
Shouldn't it be independent?
Theoretically, it should be, but the knives are out.
With so much at stake in this campaign, fact checking is a new electoral frontier. Well, this is an election, of course, in which a number of high-profile claims have already been debunked by independent fact-checkers. Well, I spoke to the Cabinet member Michael Gove a little earlier, and I asked him, would he apologise on behalf of the Conservatives for misleading voters, and would he rule out doing the same thing again?
No. I think it's absolutely right that we do provide a factual account of what Jeremy Corbyn was saying in that debate. There were a number of things that Mr Corbyn said that were simply not true, so we were calling him out on that. He was wrong about our policy on the NHS, and fundamentally also it's important that he's held to account for his policy failures, in particular his failure to say in the referendum that he's so keen on holding whether or not he would back Leave or Remain in that second referendum.
So you're not ruling out doing it again?
I'm just saying that it's absolutely right that we should be in a position where we can call out those untruths that Labour are responsible for.
Okay. The fact of it being misleading, Twitter says any further attempts to mislead people by editing verified profile information in a manner seen during the UK election debate will result in decisive corrective action. Twitter thinks you misled people.
Well, I'm sure...
Did you mislead people, Mr. Gove?
No. Twitter will have its own view, and I respect Twitter's view, but the only misleading that was going on was Jeremy Corbyn misleading people about our policy on the NHS,
and Jeremy Corbyn... How know it's from the Conservative Party?
Because it said so. There was a direct link to the Conservative Party website.
Point to me, you show me.
It was a direct link to the Conservative Party website.
You point to where it says Conservatives.
I shan't, because this is your computer. I don't know what you've been doing.
This is what appeared on the Conservative CCHQ press Twitter feed last night.
It pointed out that we were checking facts, and it was from CCHQ.
So that's not misleading people, you think?
No, it's from CCHQ.
So the voters we've shown it to this morning, nobody knew what CCHQ was.
Well, I'm terribly sorry that you found people who didn't know that.
They said it was misleading.
I'm sure if you find enough people in the street, I'm sure you can find people who will corroborate your version of accounts.
Have you got form on this, Mr. Gove? This is Vote Leave saying
that is not
they will ban tea kettles. You led Vote Leave. There are now people from Vote Leave involved in the Conservative election campaign.
Of course there are.
Is this a lie?
No.
Do you recognise this one, though?
One of the things about...
Do you recognise this one, Mr. Gove?
I certainly... Yeah. Now, one of the things that I think is important...
So the EU wants to ban kettles. Is that a lie?
No, it's not. The EU had particular rules which related, in their view, to energy policy, which meant that there were particular types of electrical device that they wanted to ban, as they have banned
They
particular
didn't want to
types
ban
of light
kettles,
bulbs
Mr.
in the
Gove.
past.
They were talking about energy efficiency. They didn't want to ban kettles.
Yes,
So
that
that's
means
a
that there
lie.
were no, it's not. It means that there are certain kettles that you could no longer manufacture. You use the L word. That's a very powerful word. What you're attempting to do is to make a polemical case
No, we're
against...
just asking for the truth in this election.
No, you're
Mr.
making a
Gove.
polemical case for a particular viewpoint.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you for the truth.
Because,
do you believe in the truth in an election campaign, Mr. Gove? Do you believe in telling the truth?
because you have a particular outlook, because you...
I don't have a particular outlook. This is scrutiny, Mr. Gove. You want to talk about getting Brexit in?
Yes.
You said that the transition period could not be extended. Now, is that true or false? Because
It
people
won't be
deserve to know
extended.
before an election, don't they? It won't be extended,
Yes.
but it could be extended.
Well, if you had, for the sake of argument, a Labour government, if you had Jeremy Corbyn, then what we would have would be not just months, but years of uncertainty. If we underpinned...
We have your word that it won't be extended, not that it couldn't be extended. And of
Yes.
course, your word was also that Boris Johnson was not fit to be Prime Minister. Then you served under Boris Johnson. Your word was that we didn't vote to leave the EU with no deal. Then you became the Minister for no deal. Can people trust your word in this election, Mr. Gove?
Well, that was a good speech, and I'm sure it would go down well on any election platform.
These are things that you have said, are they not?
Well, there are things
I'm
that...
quoting your own words at you.
No, you're not. You're making a polemical
No, I'm
argument,
not.
which you're
I'm
very
quoting
good at.
your own words. You said we will leave the EU with no deal, then
as
you
someone
became
who
Minister
was
for
a
no
journalist
deal.
in the past and wrote polemics and then became a politician, then of course you're well on the way
What
to
are we
going down
supposed to
that
do?
route.
Can we take your word in this election that you will deliver what you say you will?
Oh yes, absolutely. Just look at our record in government. We have delivered a good deal, and now that we have this good deal, we will be able to leave the European Union on January the 31st if we get a working majority, and I'm sure we will.
And this is a party currently led by a man whose lies are legion. And I mean lies. Peter Oborne, a former Daily Mail columnist. Not exactly a traditionally seen as a mark of leftish radicalism. Peter Oborne has assembled a dossier. I used to sit here listing all the lies that Boris Johnson has told and continues to tell routinely. And occasionally I would wonder whether or not I was... You remember my flesh-coloured body stocking theory about the naked emperor? You'd sit there pointing at the naked emperor and you'd just wonder why no one else was joining in. Oh, it's slightly comforting now to see journalists of the very highest level and journalists with a history of conservative support recognising the egregiousness of this individual. But it's a bit late, lads. He's already Prime Minister. It's the only way in which what has happened and what continues to happen has been permitted. How can you turn around? How can you come down like a ton of bricks on a cabinet minister telling a lie if you've got Boris Johnson's CV? And of course what it does is it exposes the people that are sent out to take the flak to almost unprecedented embarrassment. But another thing to learn from Trump, it's only embarrassing if you admit it. Just block it, blank it, bloviate, move on, and it will be fish and chip paper tomorrow. And I don't know how you stop this decline into... madness is too mild a word. I don't know how you stop this decline into abject political corruption. But Jeremy Corbyn didn't look like the man to stop it last night. Not to you and not to me. 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. I'm allowed to say this now. If you can say something clever about the state of British politics, because I'm not sure I can anymore. I've got a book to write and 1,400 words for the TLS by the middle of next week. Yeah, world's tiny violin time. But some journalists, of course, are having an absolute ball at the moment, and I don't think anyone would dispute that currently Emily Maitlis of Newsnight fame wears the crown.
Pretending to be a fact-check service, and you've renamed yourself with a credibility tick, Fact Check UK. You were misleading the public. You were trying to coat your propaganda as hardened fact.
The Twitter handle of the CCHQ press office remained CCHQ Press, so it's clear the nature of the site.
You were misleading the public.
I disagree.
Why would you have to change it to something that said fact check if people believed you when you just put CCHQ?
Because Jeremy Corbyn spent that whole debate.
I just want to go back to this issue because you seem to be diverting me away from it. Whose idea was that fact check? Please tell us.
The reason that Jeremy Corbyn... You're asking me questions, then not giving me the chance to answer. The reason
I'm giving you the
Jeremy
chance to
Corbyn
answer this one.
is
Whose idea
desperate to
was
talk
that
about
fact
the
check?
NHS. It would have been our digital. It would have been our digital.
Did you know about
it? The point is, the reason the NH pumping into
So
the
you
public
knew about
domain
this. It's
to hide
completely
the vacuum with their
legitimate, and
Brexit
you backed
policy.
it. Did you okay it? Did you know about this?
The digital team have got a remit. I set that remit. They work within the remit.
So it was your
and
idea?
I'm absolutely comfortable with them calling out when the Labour Party put what they know to be complete fabrications in the public domain, and we will call that out every time they do it.
You dressed up party lines as a fact-check service. That is dystopian.
We were calling out the Labour Party.
So that voter was absolutely right when he said at the heart of it is a question of character and integrity. As CCHQ, you do not believe that people will believe the facts or the clarifications that you put out. You know that people do not trust you as Conservative headquarters, so you have to put something out and call it a fact-check instead.
8 minutes after 11. It was interesting that James Cleverly there. Who's been involved in more car crashes than James Cleverly lately? But hey, he'll get a job out of it. He'll get rewarded if they win the election. That's how it works. Quid pro quo. What did he say? The digital team have got a remit. Someone told me the other day that the digital team has been run by someone that used to work at the Taxpayers Alliance, and I didn't believe them. And I'm like a blinking bloodhound when it comes to the tentacles of Tufton Street and their mysteriously funded activities. I'd missed that, but it's true. I've checked. The person running, or certainly reported as running social media, whether or not that's the same people as James Cleverly just described as the digital team have got a remit. I set that remit. Where are you going to hire them from? Oh, we'll hire people from the Taxpayers Alliance. What? Come off it. Have you heard what? Have you? Blip, blip, blip. That is impunity. Another line last night, Boris Johnson saying that the monarchy is beyond reproach. Do you remember I said to you yesterday or the day before that I think the best way to understand this worldview, and it is a worldview that creeps towards fascism, sadly, is rules are very important, but they don't apply to us. What other description can there be for claiming that the monarchy is beyond reproach? That somehow an accident of birth means that you shouldn't be scrutinised or indeed penalised? I don't know whether Boris Johnson even believes that, but he knows how well that plays to the forelock-tugging tendency. Well, you can't criticise the royal family, even if one of them's been knocking about with a paedophile. Beyond reproach. But it works. You sit here spluttering incredulously at what the Conservatives did, and described perfectly there by Emily Maitlis. You can be shocked at the continuing car crash of both campaigns in some ways. But you can't change it. You can't change the fact that when Boris Johnson says the monarchy is beyond reproach, question about Prince Andrew's associations with a known paedophile, his continuing associations after that paedophile was released from jail. Unbelievable. I mean, genuinely unbelievable stuff. But hey, he's a prince. So, beyond reproach. 10 minutes after 11 is the time. Linda is in County Down. Linda, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. How are you? First-time caller and extremely nervous.
There's nothing to be nervous about. It's only me. What's on your mind?
I know. I've been following you now. I'm one of your new followers from about 9 months.
Oh, lovely. Welcome.
And you have been an absolute eye-opener for me as to what is actually happening.
Yes.
I sort of suspected that we were getting manipulated along the way. The first I got of that was in the 2017 election.
Yes.
When one of the tabloids laid out a 16-page colour supplement on how big a monster Jeremy Corbyn was.
Gosh.
And that's the first time Jeremy Corbyn came into my psyche. I hadn't known of him before. So I've been watching it with interest because I'm in Northern Ireland. I can't vote for Labour or Conservative.
No.
So I've just been watching it. And as I'm watching it, I'm watching what I think.
Yeah, go on. What are you seeing?
A decent man being absolutely annihilated by the mainstream media, given no quarter whatsoever. And an absolute buffoon has been lifted into talk about being put into a position that you have absolutely no qualifications for.
I mean, you haven't actually identified which which way round you have things, but I'll let people decide themselves. Have you given any thought as to why this happens? Because let's take your analysis. I don't necessarily agree with your analysis for the
I know you don't. Yes,
for the record, but let's take it as read. Why would, I mean, the Daily Express, oddly, is desperately trying to hang on to readers that were in place when it was owned under different ownership. It's now under the same ownership as the Daily Mirror, which is absolutely bonkers in the great scheme of things. But why would the owners of, for example, the Sun and the Mail or the Telegraph be so desperate to keep Boris Johnson in power and to keep Jeremy Corbyn at bay?
I can only maybe surmise that we're talking about a coterie of a handful of billionaires who want to dictate the narrative of how the Western world are going to react in any given shape or form. I don't know what their agenda is, but I don't think we are creeping towards fascism. I think we are steamrolling towards
What do you mean by fascism?
It's very frightening.
It is. I mean, it can be, and certainly the disregard for the truth, although we've become so inured to it and we've been so incrementally exposed to it.
Why are we inured to it? We're inured to it because we are being fed a narrative, and the narrative is the mainstream media. No one is holding anyone to account. Very, very few people. You have the likes of Dominic Raab to be able to come out this morning and say that nobody gives a toss.
About the cut and thrust of social media.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Do you know, I saw that. Did he actually say those words?
Yes, he did.
But you know,
Absolutely.
he blocked me on social media after I put together a film of his own words. So he's not only is he talking twaddle when he says nobody cares about it, he's his own worst case study. The foreign secretary blocked a gob on a stick for putting together, he wasn't the foreign secretary at the time, and for people who haven't seen it, it's a film of him. All we did was put together clips of him speaking. And
I know, I watched it. It was fabulous.
It's all right. Not sure it worked.
Absolutely brilliant.
Well,
it did for me.
Yes,
I know exactly.
We might resurrect it in honour of you, Linda, in honour of welcoming you as a 9-month convert.
Can I just say
yes, anything.
that I can't vote, obviously, for
either of the two main English parties.
But I have 2 children who live and are studying. One works, one studies in England. And they both registered to vote last night.
After watching the debate?
Yes.
Well.
One's a student nurse, remember?
Yes. Well.
Yeah, so she knows where her bread is buttered.
Yes, or not.
Because they took the bursaries away from the student nurses. My daughter works 12-hour shifts on 10-week placement, 4 times a year, 12-hour shifts for no money, which precludes her able to get another job to help her in
because of the time
university.
that she has to commit, and this stuff has all happened since 2010, and yet the election
and
is
you're losing nurses left, right and centre. No one's applying to be a nurse because it's far too heavy. The workload's too heavy. They don't get the big 6
You just heard Eddie Mair there. Eddie Mair talking for him, his own personal experience of being in A&E and talking to a nurse who couldn't even take her own tea breaks. She'd eat her sandwich on the move because the alternative would be not to see.
Oh, I know. I've seen them do it. I work for the care sector, but the private care sector, and I can see how the Brexit has influenced us as well. Can't recruit our EU nurses. Our EU colleagues are all very frightened about what to do. We rely very heavily, the NHS is the same, rely very, very heavily on traffic coming from the EU to fill our nursing and care places.
And what you're hearing this week, is that I think Matt Hancock actually tweeted it's a national health service, not an international health service, which is quite incredible, especially in the context of EU citizens who have been shown time and time and time again to be bigger net contributors to the public purse than British-born people, largely because of age and workforce, you know. But they actually pay more per capita than people who were born here. But someone like Matt Hancock will turn it into a racist dog whistle. Why? Because it's arguably all they've got. 11:16 is the time. What a lovely debut from Linda. Be like Linda. Don't just listen. Join in. Needs a bit of work, that slogan. If you are interested in the little film that we made of Dominic Raab, you can find it on Twitter. I've just put it at the top of my Twitter feed. It's the second most interesting thing on Twitter at the moment. The most interesting thing is a tweet from a lady called Melissa, who photographed a man brushing his teeth on the platform at Euston Station and then spitting his fluoride-flavoured sputum onto the platform. I'm a big... we had a great chat yesterday. I don't know if you were here. You should have been. We had a lovely chat about sleeping at work. Sometimes the most fruitful and fertile conversations can come from the most unlikely of sources. I haven't yet worked out how we might turn that into a fascinating conversation. The sort of grossest thing you've ever seen on your commute. That's a little bit close to the bone. Do you know, many moons ago, I did a phone-in about the strangest things you've ever seen while driving. And being done by other drivers. And that got a little bit X-rated, as you might say. But my favourite, and I've always remembered it, and obviously I don't endorse this behaviour. The man should have been arrested immediately. But a HGV driver, because we can't see into HGV cabs, generally, because we're in our cars, right? But if you were on a double-decker coach, as my caller on this occasion was, you could see right into a HGV cab. And it was a left-hand drive, which made it even easier for our caller to see what was going on in the cab that the coach was overtaking. The bloke was frying up some sausages on a camping stove on the passenger seat. Now, that's just hilarious, right? But also incredibly dangerous. I just thought I'd share it with you. 20 minutes after 11 is the time. Don't say I never give you anything. There's a sausage-related anecdote that you'll be pulling that out of the bag at some point in the next couple of weeks. I know you will. Back to last night's events and my somewhat reluctant conclusion that nobody surely is wavering between Johnson and Corbyn. So I'm not saying what was the point of the debate, but what did it do for you? Rob's in Manchester. A lot of calls from Manchester today. That's very gratifying. Rob, what would you like to say?
Hi, yeah. I'd just like to say I am actually wavering at the minute.
Between these two?
Yeah, believe it or not, yeah.
Well, I do believe it. It's been a very odd thing to lie about. But tell me more. Tell me more. Did she put up a fight?
I've never voted before.
Right.
Sort of 42, never voted. I think, like a lot of people, sort of get into politics as you get a little bit older, start watching Question Time, things like that. And I registered last night to vote just as I started watching the programme. And I sort of hoped to be sort of persuaded or convinced by one of them.
Yes.
I'm just sort of none the wiser, really.
No, I know. Well, that, yeah, okay, I kind of understand. So you're equally ambivalent about both of them, but your vote is currently up for grabs. I suppose I was more doubting the existence of somebody who knows a lot about both of them and can't make his mind up, which isn't necessarily you.
Yeah, I mean, I've followed politics now for about 5-6 years, so I know a little bit. Oh, you poor
thing. Rob, mate, can I just tell you, it's not normally this awful. You've picked the worst... I swear to you, I did an A-level in 1990, mate. You have picked the worst 5 years since God knows when, probably since Queen Victoria was on the throne, to have got an interest in British politics. I'm amazed you stuck around, frankly. I'd have gone back to watching Speedway after about 3 months of this if I hadn't been immersed in it since school. I swear to you it gets better than this. What are you looking for, then? What would be... You might not be able to articulate this, but what would win you over? What would you want to hear or see that would be a game changer for you, do you think?
Well, I just think something that would have a real impact on people. I think so. Growing up working class in North England, I'd always sort of got drilled into me that it didn't make a difference which way you voted, and it wouldn't really sort of impact. If
it made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. That's the old line, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I think that's why I'd never voted. But then, as I said, sort of increasingly got a bit more interested in it, and watching it last night, I just think. I don't know whether you should be separating the man from the actual sort of policies or the party or whatever, but I just can't see how you would vote for Boris, given what he's like as a person and his sort of individual background and track record and everything that he's covered. And then with Jeremy Corbyn, I just couldn't see him as Prime Minister. He's just not a leader. He seems a nice bloke. And again, I don't think that sort of PR and the way he's been told to come across, but he just seems a genuinely decent bloke. But
a lot of Jewish people would disagree with that, and a lot of people who share their concerns about anti-Semitism. The phrase, I think, in the context of how he conducts himself in those sort of scenarios, the phrase mild-mannered probably seems fair, doesn't it? He seems mild-mannered, and Johnson, of course, is famous for bluster and what have you. But there is the problem. I guess you need to read the manifestos, don't you?
Well, I think that's it. I think watch a few more of the debates and look into it a little bit more. But
there's only one more to watch, I think. I read yesterday that Johnson's sending a substitute to the 7-leader one, to the one that every leader gets to take part in. But he's got one scheduled with the BBC. I think Nick Robinson is chairing it. where it will be Corbyn versus Johnson. Keep in touch, Rob. I'd love to keep an eye on what you do, and you might not want to tell me by the time December the 12th comes around what decision you finally arrive at. But can we keep in touch and just keep an eye on things with you? Is that all right?
Yeah, definitely. And I just hope I don't get to the point where I end up thinking, going back to how I was originally, and just thinking it's not worth it either way.
You'll get no criticism from me if you do, my friend. 25 minutes after 11 is the time. Dan's in Cumbria. Dan, what would you like to say?
Hey, James.
Hello, mate.
First time caller.
You're very welcome.
I've sort of quite often sort of listen to your show when I can.
Good. Thanks.
I watched the debate last night. I'm one of these where I'm sort of a little bit on the fence.
Yeah.
But it proves sort of what I suspected for quite a while, really, that you can't trust either of them. I think Boris, I know everyone's sort of making a big deal about the fact-checking, but it's not a surprise, is it, from a guy who ran a campaign who plastered 350 million a week to the NHS on the side of a bus. I don't think it's that surprising. And then on the other side...
Yeah, but you see, that frightens me more than people cheering him and being blind to the lies, actually, because it's not... something I've only recently arrived at this conclusion. The problem isn't with the people who like being lied to, and God knows we've spoken to enough of them on this programme. That attitude you described there, which is, yeah, well, he lies, you're about 1 degree away from saying, well, all politicians lie, so what? That's really scary.
No, it's not to excuse it. That's the reason why
I
don't trust him. But then on the other side of the coin, you've got a champagne socialist in Jeremy Corbyn.
What do you mean by that? Because it's I mean, with love and respect, it's a fairly meaningless phrase. I think he's teetotal for a start.
I think a guy who's on £150,000 a year.
But it would be
about how we need to take money off.
It would be impossible to be leader of the opposition and not be on that money unless you turn down your wages.
Yeah, but I think a lot of this...
But hang on a minute, Dan. Come here. You can't say that, pal. You can say what you want, but you can't say he doesn't really care about the poor because he gets paid what the leader of the opposition is paid according to the law.
I'm not saying that he doesn't care about the poor. I just find it a little bit cheeky that sort of he's saying we'll take off the rich and give it to the poor. Meanwhile, he's earning £150,000 a year.
But this is the point you're missing here is that you can't not get paid that as leader of the opposition. So you are now boxed into a corner where you have to say that every single leader of the opposition is some sort of hypocrite when they talk about wanting wealth redistribution because they happen to get paid well over the national average. I mean, with love, mate, that's a bit daft.
Right, okay, I'll
so 137,000 anyway, but, you know, give or take. Boris was getting 250 grand from the Daily Telegraph and he called it chicken feed.
Yeah, but my most worrying thing, James, is at the moment, I've got sort of friends and family that are interested in politics.
Yes.
I'm busy sort of at the moment trying to convince them how important this election is.
And yet you don't know which way to turn.
It's the most important election. How am I supposed to convince them that to take an interest in politics when overseas lies and deceit everywhere you go in political point scoring?
I mean, you put me in slightly uncomfortable positions. The lies and the deceits are essentially a Conservative problem, despite James Cleverly's best attempts to claim otherwise. The problem that Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, or the problems with Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, are myriad and serious, but they're not really problems of deceit. So there's the beginning of an answer to your question. And
yeah, I mean, what I would ask is, at the moment, I see him sort of promising the moon on a stick.
Yes.
Essentially, you know, we want to nationalise the railway, we want to give free broadband to everyone in the country. Well, straight away, I don't know how that works.
Well, then you need to read up on it, because, I mean, it might work, it might not work.
How much is that going to cost? So are you going to put a fibre network in there?
You're asking the wrong man, but you do. Can I ask what newspapers you read?
I don't read newspapers.
Where do you get your news from?
Really? Various sources, really. To be honest, I try and read.
Well, where would you say first, off the top of your head, you got your information about the broadband policy from?
straight out of Jeremy Corbyn. That's straight off the Labour Party, isn't it?
No, it isn't, mate, though. Because Jeremy Corbyn didn't stand up and say, how the hell are we going to pay for this? This is a daft idea, did he? You've got that from someone.
That's my opinion on what I think. I've not read how's that.
But what have you read about the funding? What have you read about how it's going to be funded?
The policies in general.
No, that one specifically, the one you picked up on and questioned the feasibility of. Where did you get your facts from regarding its funding?
I've not got facts from it.
So where are you getting this opinion from?
Policies in general, which includes the free broadband, I'm being told. Because
I just mentioned it because the last manifesto, whether you liked it or not, was properly audited and costed, and yet that right-wing media line that we're simultaneously such a powerful economy that we'll be able to brave Brexit, but we can't afford to give down in Cumbria fibre broadband because it will cost so much money. It just intrigues me that. I don't know quite how people end up at those conclusions. I'm not suggesting that you necessarily subscribe to the first bit of that pincer movement, but either we're a mega economy that can afford to brave any problems that Brexit brings our way, or we're too poor to put broadband in every house in the country. We can't be both. It's 11:30. What the hell did Boris Johnson mean when he said the institution of the monarchy is beyond reproach? That's the question I should have asked you. Might have avoided some... what's the correct adjective here? Eccentric contributions to the programme. And do you know, the chap talking gibberish about it being some sort of anti-Semitic witch hunt did accidentally remind me of something quite interesting that David Baddiel, who I admire very much, pointed out on Twitter last night from his own real account. He wasn't pretending to be an independent fact-checking service like the actual government were. But the way that Corbyn pronounced Epstein was seized upon as negative, and David wrote that every Jew would have noticed that. I think he pronounced it Epstein, and that there is apparently some sort of anti-Semitic subtext to that. I bow to nobody in my belief that Jeremy Corbyn has handled anti-Semitism in his own ranks appallingly, but I'm not fully across that one, I have to be honest with you. 18 minutes after 12 is the time, but that could just be an omission on my part, rather than a sin of commission. What was he playing at? What do you think he meant? What was he doing when he said that the royal family is beyond reproach? It's such a strange thing to say in the week that a member of, or the monarchy is beyond reproach, to be precise. In a week where a member of the royal family is not only continuing to face the grimmest of accusations from a young woman who was trafficked by the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, but also, of course, now facing a whole host of questions about many, many elements of his conduct. If he's making racist jokes at a dinner honouring the Saudi royal family, listen, two wrongs don't make a right. We shouldn't be honouring the Saudi royal family, but we were. And there he is making racist jokes about Arabs, according to Jackie Smith. Questions about his fundraising, his use of his status, his HRH status, perhaps to feather his own nest, a £13 million skiing chalet in Verbier, some associations with business people we shall describe as interesting. But the monarchy, the institution of the monarchy is beyond reproach. I'm not going to lie to you. I am so drawn to the idea of Boris Johnson trying to convince the public that some people should be beyond reproach, i.e. him, that I probably put a little bit too much weight on that theory because I just like it so much, and I can be as guilty of hearing what I want to hear as the next person. So more alternative answers, perhaps, and defences. Like, James, you're getting your knickers in a right old twist over nothing. What Boris Johnson meant was simply ... It had nothing to do with being an apologist for convicted sex offenders. Chris is in Tower Hamlets. Chris, what would you like to say?
Morning, James. I'm sorry to say I thoroughly agree with that line taken by a previous caller. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you read Peter Oborne's article in The Guardian this week.
I did, yes. I've read the whole dossier.
Lifelong Tory, of course, you know. I mean, who says that he talked to senior BBC executives who told him that they think it's wrong to expose lies told by a British Prime Minister because it undermines trust in British politics. Exactly the same argument.
I think it was a singular executive, if my memory serves.
No, I've got the article
was it plural? Was it plural?
Yeah, plural.
And he hasn't named them.
Editors, yeah. I've written to all the editors of all the flagship programmes on the BBC asking for an assurance that they don't agree with that. So far, only the editor of the Andrew Marr show has written back.
That's interesting. Keep me posted, won't you? I'm quite intrigued by that. But, I mean, I completely understand that your grievance here, and it's a valid grievance. You're preaching to the choir. I've been wanging on about all the lies Boris Johnson tells for all the years I've been in this job. I was doing it before it was fashionable, Chris, as the kids sometimes say. But I want to steer you back to that monarchy line of Boris Johnson's. It could just be that he was saying, I will brook no criticism of the institution of the monarchy, not that he was saying members of the royal family should be above all criticism.
Yeah, I mean, that's I guess, the charitable interpretation.
That's my middle name.
But I still think the wider argument is important, because we all know that, British society is particularly hidebound by this kind of notion of deference, and it's not just towards the
Have you
monarchy.
Always known that? Have you always known that?
Yes, I think pretty much. I mean, I'm a pretty sort of political person anyway.
I didn't know that. I thought I was a pretty political person, but until Brexit came along, I had no idea how many people were secretly racist. But the deference is the thing that has staggered me the most. This notion, I mean, the idea that somebody like Jacob Rees-Mogg could be admired or revered could only happen in a country that was blinded by deference, that was tugging its forelock so hard it had gone blind.
I mean, I worked as a teacher for 40 years, so you get to be able to see the undercurrents of British society, through a school.
I don't know how I missed it. It's a grave sort of gap in my upbringing. We were taught, my sister and I, that we were as good as anyone. Always. We're as good as anyone. No, you don't bow to anyone's son. You don't curtsy to anyone. You are as good as anyone. And if you're going to show respect for people, you respect what they've done, not what's written on their birth certificate or some accident of geography. Quite bizarre. Anyway, sorry, mate. I'm just venting. Thank you for the call. And let me know. I'd love to know. Because I did read Oborne's piece, and he received some criticism for that line about BBC executives. I'm not going to lie. It jarred with me, actually, having worked there briefly, before I felt I could no longer, in good conscience, be part of any news organisation that treated abject liars with the same respect and space and authority as people who were at least trying to tell the truth. A little bit ahead of my time, you might say. But this was long before they started passing off their own Twitter feed as an independent fact-checking account. But maybe I was a canary down the coal mine, I don't know. Summon the Usherwood! And here he is, on his trusty steed of truth. Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor, here to help us work out what's going on.
The reason I just wanted to pop in and see you, James, was because there's been a huge amount about this fake Fact Check UK Twitter handle for the Conservative Party press
Astonishing.
office.
Did you know that their social media is run by someone that used to work for the Taxpayers Alliance? Was it you that told me?
No.
Unbelievable. I might as well advertise the fact that this is an eccentric approach to the truth.
But it diverts attention away from the debate itself and what was said or not said in the debate. And I just want to concentrate. I've picked out three particular parts of what Boris Johnson said during that debate. And the first one was this attack line against Jeremy Corbyn that the Labour leader, if he became Prime Minister, would put corporation tax up to its highest level, and it would be the highest level in Boris Johnson's view in Europe.
To answer the question directly about how we're handling public finances in this electoral period, I would just point out that I have shelved a plan to cut corporation tax, saving, it's already the lowest in Europe. He would whack it up to the highest in Europe, but we've shelved that cut. That gives us the ability to put another £6 billion into the NHS and other priorities.
So the whack it up to the highest level in Europe.
Yes.
So Jeremy Corbyn on Monday was at the CBI conference in Greenwich, and he said that corporation tax would go up to a maximum of 28%. The corporation tax in France is between 31 and 33.3%. Therefore, Jeremy Corbyn is not going to put corporation tax up to the highest level in Europe.
So that was a lie?
So that wasn't true.
Yeah, are you fact-checking him?
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm just fact-checking.
Yeah.
Okay,
So then the egregiousness of setting up a fake fact-checking site while the Prime Minister is telling lies on television is, again, I mean, I guess those of us waiting for people who don't currently care to care are still going to be baffled by this.
But people are talking about the fake fact-checking.
They are and they're not. I mean, there are plenty of people... people
well, I'm not, because I'm here.
No, I know you're not, and we're very grateful to you, Theo, for your efforts, as always. But we're both sometimes a little in danger of inhabiting the Westminster bubble. People would not have been talking about that, even if they weren't talking about the fake fact-checking side. It's not a sexy enough lie to demand the levels of attention that you and I think it deserves. But carry on.
Okay, so then, do you remember last month Stephen Barclay was in front of a Lords committee and he said there wouldn't be any checks on goods between Northern Ireland and mainland Great Britain?
The current Secretary of State for Brexit, the man who took over from David Davis and Dominic Raab. What a hat-trick of talent that
And then he was being questioned by Lord Stuart Wood, who of course advised Ned Miliband, who said, actually, I think you might be wrong, Mr. Barclay. And then Stephen Barclay had to correct himself in that same meeting with peers. And then he had to say that there would be checks in the House of Commons. And then Boris Johnson said that there wouldn't be checks between goods travelling between Northern Ireland and mainland Great Britain. Well, he made that same claim yesterday in that debate.
And a quick response. The only problem with what Mr. Johnson just said is that he said exactly the opposite when he spoke to a DUP conference. You said there would be no border down the Irish Sea. Well, there is.
No, on the contrary, the whole of the UK comes out entire and perfect, as I have said. We do free trade deals together. We take back control together.
So he says, on the contrary, when Jeremy Corbyn says that there'll be a border, there'll be checks down the middle of on goods travelling between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, and Boris Johnson says on the contrary. But there will be checks on goods travelling between Northern Ireland and mainland Great Britain.
So, oddly, I don't need to do this because I've got you here, but I'll go to one of the genuine independent fact-checking sites, shall I? In this case, I probably full fact. Does the new withdrawal agreement create a border in the Irish Sea? This is on one of the independent fact-checking sites. Again, puts a new complexion on the Conservatives' decision to set up a fake one. Last night. It has been argued that the new withdrawal agreement will create a, quote, border down the Irish Sea, end quotes, with checks taking place on goods crossing into Northern Ireland from Great Britain. It's correct that goods checks will have to take place. This will kick in at the end of the transition period unless or until the UK and EU sign a trade agreement superseding it. And as we know, the transition period will last until December 2020 at the earliest, and December 2022 at the latest. So, I mean, do we reach for the L word again?
I never use that word.
No, I know you don't.
I never use the L word.
But that's because you're...
I don't use the L word.
Well, that's because you're still trying to get interviews with these people, and I completely respect you. Channel 4 called them liars, and they've been banned from conducting interviews at all. So I won't use it either, because I shall follow your mature example. Boris Johnson said something that he must know isn't true.
It's not true. There will be checks. They might call them something else, but there will be checks.
Ojo bashes Brex Dodger. Corbyn jeered over Brexit. Corbyn dodges Brexit question 9 times. I shall leave people to decide for themselves whether that is as important as Boris Johnson answering a Brexit question once with something that's categorically untrue.
Do you want to do hospitals?
Any more?
Hospitals?
Any more for any more?
40 new hospitals?
20, 40. 27.
One of the single most beautiful and brilliant things about Britain and about our society. And we are determined to fund it not just now, but for the long term. In this One Nation Conservative government, we're putting record sums in, £34 billion. We are, as I said earlier on, we're not just upgrading 20 hospitals, but we are building 40 new hospitals as a result of the decisions taken by this government.
Now, we need to clarify what we mean by new hospital. I'm going to tell you what I think it means, and then you crack on with your fact-checking. I think it means today there is no hospital.
Yes. No hospital.
No hospital.
No hospital.
Tomorrow there is a hospital. Ergo, the hospital tomorrow is a new hospital.
So you turn
I
up
don't think
to
is
a piece
controversial.
of land,
yes.
There's no hospital.
No.
You come back a year later and there's a hospital.
Precisely. So
That's
40,
a new hospital.
That's a new hospital. 40
brand new hospital.
Yeah. Or maybe it was something else before, like
a supermarket.
Yeah, and now it's a hospital. It's still a new hospital. Yeah, yeah. Or I mean, you know, a hospital, a school. Turn into Boris Johnson. School, Theo. School. Could be a school.
It's a hospital.
That's what a new hospital is. So we've established the parameters of reality now. Tell me about the Prime Minister.
In the course of the next Parliament, there will be 6 refurbishments to hospitals.
To hospitals that already exist?
Yes.
So not new, no, so 6. So 34 new hospitals.
Yeah, but they're not in the course of the next Parliament. So
Right.
Boris Johnson would have to win another majority, and then the
So how many
funding would
new
kick-
hospitals will there be in the course of the next Parliament? Under the parameters of reality that we've just established as meaning...
Possibly 6, but some of them are refurbishments. It's not quite clear.
So there might not be any.
Well, there'd be refurbishments.
But that's not new. You can't refurbish a hospital.
You do it, and then it's new.
Yeah, but it has to be a hospital before it gets refurbished. Unless you're refurbishing a hotel to turn it into a hospital, then it would be a new hospital. But they're not refurbishing hotels. They're refurbishing old hospitals and then claiming that they're new hospitals. Where does the number 40 come from?
But it's new because you walk in, it smells new, the paint's new.
Yeah,
the
that's true.
equipment's new.
Yeah, they've got a fake fact-checking site saying that it's new. Oh, hang on, here's Sheila Fogarty.
Explain the 40.
Yeah.
Of the 40 hospitals, 6 are genuinely going to be new hospitals that will be built and paid for by a fund of 2.7 billion. The remaining 34 figure have been given, how many million is it? 1.2 million. 100 million divided by 34, which comes to about 2.3 million, because I did the maths earlier.
You're good, you are.
And that means all that money is to be spent on hospitals that don't yet exist or do exist and need upgrading or replacing, making plans for a hospital that may or may not ever come into existence, which is why it's inaccurate to say they're building 40 new hospitals.
How do we know, Theo and I, that you are actually Sheila Fogarty and not Conservative Party headquarters dressed up as Sheila Fogarty pretending to be doing independent fact checks?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that because I put a very similar question to Brandon Lewis, the security minister, who I interviewed a moment ago, and we'll be playing that interview in a moment when I said, what if I masquerade as a political campaigner in my street to try to beat the Conservative Party in a constituency that's very close? He thought it was different than what they did on Twitter. I don't think it's different than what they did on Twitter.
That's seen out of Mission Impossible, isn't it?
Face off.
Hello, madam. Can I come in?
And now we cross live to the real Sheila Fogarty.
I am the real Sheila Fogarty, whatever that amounts to these days. Thank you very much indeed, James.